There's no doubt that ever since the first iteration of the event back in 2022, AEW Forbidden Door has been one of the company's most successful pay-per-views to date. Forbidden Door is a time where stars from various other wrestling companies, whether they be New Japan, CMLL, Rev Pro, or otherwise, come together with All Elite Wrestling to put on one of the biggest international super shows of the year. However, in recent years, one of the old critiques of Forbidden Door has reared its ugly head and had many even loyal AEW fans saying that there might be an issue with the way Forbidden Door tends to play out. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what the problem is with AEW New Japan Forbidden Door, how the company can fix that problem, or if it might just be cooked for what used to be one of AEW's most anticipated pay-per-views. All that and much more coming up right here in this video. I'm Big Omer Q for Real Take Wrestling. Be sure to smash that thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. All right, let's dive in. As I mentioned before, AEW Forbidden Door is far and away one of the company's most successful pay-per-views. If you look at it just from the metrics, if you include attendance, buy rate, this is AEW's second biggest show of the year, right behind the flagship All-In pay-per-view event. And for Forbidden Door, that is something that has been the case ever since 2022. In the lead up to the first ever show, we had seen several New Japan Pro Wrestling talent appear on the show on AEW TV, and it felt like they were building up to something big, and that ended up being the first ever Forbidden Door in Chicago, Illinois, back in 2022. And the lead up to it was kind of crazy because back in 2019, when Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Cody Rhodes left New Japan Pro Wrestling to pursue their ventures in AEW, the relationship between Tony Khan and New Japan Pro Wrestling was horrible. There was probably no bigger drama in professional wrestling than what was happening between these two companies, with New Japan being very upset with four of their biggest stars leaving abruptly for new competition instead of staying the course and helping out the company that had built them up to be where they were. And no matter what side of that debate you kind of fall on, the reality is that it felt like these two companies would never do business, yet they eventually did, and it was through dealings with the likes of Rocky Romero and Ghetto that this relationship was mended over time into something that has blossomed into something that is great for both companies. AEW gets the benefit from having these fresh new stars from Japan come over and appear on their TV show and interact with their current AEW stars, and New Japan Pro Wrestling gets something that they were lacking over the last couple of years, and that is international exposure for some of their biggest stars. So for the primary companies that are involved in this, it is a bit of a win-win, but that is also where the problem lies. It is dependent on New Japan Pro Wrestling having major stars, and that was no problem back in 2022. That was a time where New Japan had Jay White, Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay, Katsuyori Shibata, Minoru Suzuki, and so many other major acts on their roster. And these were talent that were not only big names in Japan, but were big names internationally. The legend of the Bullet Club, the legend of Suzuki-gun, the legend of Okada himself as an institution in Japanese professional wrestling was undeniable. But what happened to all of those people that I just mentioned right now? A lot of them went over to AEW. A lot of them have left New Japan. And the biggest problem right now with Forbidden Door, in my eyes, is the fact that while AEW definitely has a bunch of stars to offer and many exciting matchups, New Japan Pro Wrestling at this point does not. You still have Tanahashi, don't get me wrong. You still have the likes of Yota Tsuji and others that they're building up, but they don't have those marquee names that you can really put up there at the level of a Kenny Omega, at the level of a Will Ospreay, at the level of a Kazuchika Okada. And in my eyes, it has hurt the build to these shows. When Forbidden Door first came around, the biggest critique was that people weren't really aware of who these stars were or what they were doing. And while I disagree with the framing of that, because quite frankly, unless you're living under a rock, you probably heard at least a rumor about who the hell Kazuchika Okada was. The same goes for Jay White. The same goes for these other people. And AEW did used to run a lot of promo packages leading up to these events, and they would tell you exactly who these people are. So if you weren't watching the TV, then maybe you could make that excuse, but that wasn't the case. But look over the last 2 years, just what has happened to Forbidden Door with the mass exodus of stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling, with their inability to build new stars. AEW has been forced to rely on their own internal roster to build up major matches. Look at last year's main event. It was Swerve Strickland versus Will Ospreay. Yes, sure, you could maybe do a technicality that Will Ospreay had just left New Japan for AEW, but the fact of the matter is he was an AEW contracted guy. Used to be the case that the world champion of AEW would defend against the world champion or someone else in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Didn't happen. So that started a downfall, I think, where AEW felt, well, the marquee match has to be a big match. And to be honest, New Japan does not have anything to offer when it comes to that. So this year, look at what they've done. They've doubled down. You not only have the AEW World Championship match between Hangman Adam Page and MJF as the main event, but you also have another main event with Athena versus Toni Storm. Again, two AEW contracted talent. So where does that leave New Japan Pro Wrestling? Well, kind of on the outskirts. This has become a AEW pay-per-view event. And the reality is the aura, the energy, the absolute amazement and feeling of excitement that we got leading into the first couple of Forbidden Doors is no longer there in the same way. Because New Japan does not have the star power, and they have not done a good job of building up stars. AEW, on their part, have not done a good job of telling you and building storylines leading up to these events about who these people are and why you should care. And when you combine those two factors together, you have a bit of an issue. How do you make Forbidden Door exciting? How do you make Forbidden Door feel like this once-in-a-year event that it's supposed to be, instead of just being another big pay-per-view? Well, you have to add stakes to this. My fix would be that you have a tally at the end of the night of all of the matches and which promotion won the most. They get extra people into major tournaments like the G1, major tournaments like the Continental Classic or otherwise. Or you go all in and you say, whoever is the winner at the end of the night gets a large prize pot, or the largest pot of the sharings, which will be divided amongst the rosters. There's ways to make this feel like it's important. There's ways to make it feel more urgent. Urgency is something that is very important in professional wrestling that is lost over time. And I think that if you add this level of stakes, if you add this level of urgency to this event, it'll make it feel more worthwhile, and it'll make it feel like these people aren't just having exhibition matches that have exhibition matches. They're having exhibition matches for something tangible. And that is my way of fixing Forbidden Door, along with, honestly, telling people who these wrestlers are. But in the end, that is an AEW problem. That is a New Japan Pro Wrestling problem. That is a problem for them. My problem is responding to your comments. So in the comment section below, let me know what you guys think about this. Is it a big deal? Am I overblowing it? Am I out of my freaking mind? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, be sure to smash that thumbs up, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. I'm Omer Q, aka Big Ohm. Until next time, keep it real.